On Saturday morning, August 19, 2017, Norberta Greywind watched her 22-year-old pregnant daughter, Savanna, struggle to climb the stairs to her third-floor neighbor's apartment. Savanna was 8 months pregnant, and the unusually hot August weather made it difficult for her to walk on her swollen legs. A few hours later, William Hone, the boyfriend of Brooke Cruz, the same neighbor who had invited Savanna over, climbed those same stairs. When he entered the apartment, he found Brooke scrubbing the bathroom, with Savanna's bloody and shredded body lying on the floor and a basin with a baby on top of the toilet lid. Seeing William, Brooke picked up the infant and handed it to him, saying, "This is our baby. This is our family. Please help me." In a shocking twist against any sense of morality, William assisted Brooke in cleaning up the blood, carrying bags of bloody towels and clothes out of the apartment, wrapping Savanna's body in bags secured with duct tape and ropes, and later disposing of the corpse. This heinous crime would soon send shockwaves across the entire nation. Savanna Greywind was born on August 9, 1995, in Belcourt, North Dakota. Her parents, Norberta and Joe Greywind, were Native Americans. She was a member of the Spirit Lake Sioux tribe. Shortly after Savanna's birth, the family moved to Fargo, but they returned to the reservation when she was 9 years old. Growing up in a vibrant, multicultural community, rich with colorful traditions, Savanna was immersed in nature and surrounded by the love of her family, which she valued above all else. This circle also included her grandparents and 3 siblings. Savanna was a horse enthusiast with a caring soul and was known as a committed student with average performance at Warwick Public High School. It was during her studies there that she met Ashton Matheny, who, like her, was a member of the Spirit Lake Sioux tribe. Their romance quickly blossomed, and by 2010 they were certain they had found the love of their lives. Though they dreamed of starting a home together, it was still early. However, Ashton's daily interactions with Savanna gave him a glimpse of her maternal instincts, as she adored children, particularly her nephews, whom she helped raise with great joy. Later, Savanna attended the Lakes Region State College and earned a degree as a certified nursing assistant, which led to employment at a senior care home. When the home was acquired by a large American company, she was transferred to Fargo in January 2016. To keep Savanna company, her entire family moved to Fargo, renting a modest ground-floor apartment. At that time, Ashton lived and worked in Minneapolis, about 270 miles away, making efforts to visit her regularly. During these visits, they discussed saving money to eventually move in together. In the apartment above Savanna's lived the couple Brooke and William. Brooke, born on July 4, 1979, had a troubled past despite growing up in a normal family in Florida. She was always a problematic young woman, and her relationships over the last 2 decades showed she was obsessive, had poorly controlled aggression, and a knack for intimidating people. At 17, in 1995, Brooke gave birth to a daughter from her relationship with Aaron Edwards. After becoming a mother, she worked as a pet store animal technician and a sales representative. However, One day she left the state without explanation, abandoning her husband and daughter. She then led a life on the fringes of the law, ending up imprisoned in Missouri for passing bad checks, and later in Texas for violating parole while working as a waitress in a Chinese restaurant. When her daughter turned 14, Brooke had some virtual conversations with her through a social network, maintaining brief contact, always behind Aaron's back, who hadn't heard from his ex-wife since she left. Throughout those years, Brooke had numerous lovers, which she boasted about until she remarried in 2006, this time to Carl Cruz, a carpenter from Minnesota. The couple had 2 children, and Brooke worked as Carl's administrative assistant. After 3 years, Brooke left for a period, and upon her return, Carl discovered she kept meticulous records and diaries detailing rather peculiar matters. The most shocking entries included detailed accounts of her various lovers and, more disturbingly, comprehensive reports on births and pregnancy terminations. Brooke kept meticulous notes that included a list of items needed to dispose of an unborn child: scissors, knives, tweezers, gloves, and oxytocin to induce contractions or cause a miscarriage. In 2010 and 2011, Brooke visited Australia, and during one of these trips, she suffered a spontaneous miscarriage. Doctors informed her that she could no longer have children. At the end of that year and the beginning of the next, Brooke was arrested for attacking her husband Carl with a knife. After regaining her freedom, she traveled back to Australia using a false identity. In a sworn statement during a custody battle for their 2 children, Carl wrote that she often fled from her problems, citing her trips to Australia as an example. Living life on her terms, Brooke met Andrew Murray, a chef from Katoomba, through a dating app. She quickly moved to the Blue Mountains and married him. However, Andrew soon discovered the countless lies surrounding his new wife, who had concealed her true identity, the fact that she had children and that she had been previously married. Despite her deceit, Andrew fell in love and decided to salvage their relationship. He stood by Brooke's side but soon grew uneasy about her obsession with real-life crimes. Brooke's fixation on criminal psychology and famous criminals became her sole reading material and favorite conversation topic. Initially, Andrew saw it as a peculiar but harmless hobby, but his perspective shifted when she began threatening him. Andrew became alarmed as her behavior grew increasingly aggressive. He suggested she return to the United States to care for her children, but this only worsened the situation. Brooke threatened to report him to the authorities and attempted to terrorize him, making him believe the police were after him. Exhausted by her delusions, Andrew went to the nearest police station, offering to cooperate with the authorities, as he had nothing to hide. The officers informed him there were no charges against him, and suggested something was wrong with his wife. Andrew recounted the torment he endured, including threatening texts and immigration documents with false names. 6 months and 10 days passed from Brooke's arrival in Australia until her return to the United States in October 2012. Back in the U.S., Andrew maintained contact with Brooke for 2 weeks, contemplating a move to reconcile their marriage. However, he soon realized it was futile. Concerned by her erratic behavior, he alerted the Fargo police about the potential danger she posed. However, the police seemed indifferent to his warnings. Eventually, Andrew severed ties with Brooke and moved on. Back in the U.S., Brooke engaged in a prolonged custody battle with Carl for their 2 children. Around the same time, in late 2012, she began a relationship with William, a few years younger than her. Details about William's background are sparse, but it is known that he had recently completed a sentence for child neglect and abuse after bringing his son to the hospital in January 2011 with fractures near his right ear. The whirlwind romance led Brooke and William to move into an apartment in the same Fargo building where Savanna's family lived. William, blinded by what he believed to be an unbreakable love, dreamed of building a home and family with Brooke. Although Brooke initially reciprocated William's feelings, she hid her significant difficulties in conceiving. Meanwhile, Brooke faced the frustration of the court granting exclusive custody of her 2 children to her ex-husband Carl, while she only had visitation rights. Brooke made a living through temporary jobs, either in stores or various nursing homes. Over the months, her feelings toward William changed, as reflected in her diary. On December 23, 2014, she was diagnosed with anxiety at a Fargo medical center and was told she had post-traumatic stress disorder. To make matters worse, the following year, Brooke received a medical report about a growth in her gallbladder, darkening her mood even further. By that time, she wrote in her personal notes about a shadow that seemed to be consuming her true personality. Throughout that year and the next 2, their relationship oscillated between routine calm and occasional conflicts. Given the tragic events that later unfolded, investigators believe Brooke was likely seeking a solution to fulfill her desire to be a mother again and to prevent William from leaving her. While Brooke's life seemed to be spiraling into chaos, Savanna and her boyfriend Ashton's relationship appeared increasingly promising. At the beginning of 2017, they received the wonderful news that they were expecting their first child. The family's jubilant reaction to the news only heightened the couple's excitement for their bright future. Ashton doubled his efforts to achieve their long-awaited independence and marriage. In the fall of 2017, the doctor informed them they would have a girl, filling them with joy. Around that time, their upstairs neighbor, with whom Savanna's family had only a courteous relationship, approached the pregnant young woman with an invitation to smoke an illegal substance. Savanna refused and immediately informed her family about the absurd proposal, especially given her advanced pregnancy. From that moment, Norberta and Joe, Savanna's parents, viewed Brooke and her boyfriend William with suspicion. Saturday, August 19, 2017, began like any other day. At 22 and in her 8th month of pregnancy, Savanna looked radiant but understandably tired. She eagerly awaited her baby's due date. Shortly after noon, Brooke called Savanna to her apartment for help with sewing, explaining she needed her to try on a dress. Despite her distrust, Savanna agreed to help. Once inside, Brooke became hostile, accusing Savanna of mistreating her cats. At 1:30 p.m., Ashton sent a message to Savanna, which went unanswered. Suddenly, the 2 women engaged in a physical fight and Savanna fell, hitting her head. The impact left her unconscious and Brooke took the opportunity to fetch a knife. Using the sharp object, Brooke performed a cesarean section without medical knowledge, driven by her desire to steal the baby. In excruciating pain, Savanna tried to rise and saw in horror as Brooke removed her baby and placed her in a bathtub. Without proper medical attention, Savanna was severely weakened from profuse bleeding, and soon after, her heart stopped. Worried for his daughter and suspicious of the strange neighbor, Joe knocked on Brooke's door but received evasive responses. The details of William's involvement in the crime vary, with investigators debating 2 scenarios. In the first, William arrived after Savanna's tragic end. In the second, upon discovering the bloody scene, William tied a rope around Savanna's neck to ensure she had no signs of life. According to the reconstruction of events, what is certain is that Brooke showed the newborn to William, declaring they finally had a family. William then cleaned the crime scene, gathering all evidence including shoes and blood-stained towels, and disposed of them far away. The couple discarded Savanna's body in the Red River on the outskirts of Fargo, near the Minnesota border. Meanwhile, Savanna's family, desperate after countless unanswered calls to her phone, reported her disappearance that same Saturday afternoon. Officers arrived at their home at 5 p.m. and, after a brief conversation with Norberta and Joe, learned where Savanna was last seen. They immediately went upstairs and knocked on Brooke and William's door. The initial visit by the police to the apartment revealed nothing suspicious, so they left. However, a few hours later, still with no news of Savanna's whereabouts, the officers returned to Brooke and William's apartment for further questioning. Meanwhile, investigators interviewed Ashton, whose alibi was corroborated the next day. Consequently, on Sunday, August 20, 2017, the police visited the couple's residence for the third time. Despite Brooke and William sticking to their story and no incriminating evidence being found, the officers left empty-handed once again. Ashton took matters into his own hands, dedicating every moment to informing locals about the case and asking for their help in finding Savanna. During those anguished hours, the soon-to-be father couldn't stop replaying his last conversation with his girlfriend in his mind, hoping to find a logical explanation for her mysterious disappearance. Determined to follow the only viable lead, the timeline of events, the police took William to the station for an interview. He did everything he could to handle the situation. Meanwhile, back home, both he and Brooke had to care for the newborn, which involved buying necessities for feeding and clothing her. They also began informing their acquaintances that they had become parents, news that quickly reached the investigating officers. Suspecting that Savanna might be held captive somewhere, the police started tailing the couple. Finally, on Tuesday, August 22, 2017, the police raided Brooke and William's apartment. After moving the sofa that had been placed against the door to block entry, they found a chaotic scene. On the bed, they discovered a newborn baby, just a few days old, who was immediately taken to the emergency room. Though Brooke refused to answer the police's questions, both she and William were taken to the station. There, William revealed that when he arrived home that Saturday, Brooke was holding the baby and frantically trying to clean up the scene. His disclosures began to unravel the gruesome story. On Thursday, August 24, 2017, Brooke and William were formally arrested and charged with conspiracy to commit murder, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, and providing false information to the police. Fortunately, the baby was in good health. Genetic tests would later provide crucial evidence against those who took Savanna's life. 3 days later, Savanna's lifeless body was found on the banks of the Red River, wrapped in plastic and adhesive tape. The subsequent autopsy revealed she had been a victim of homicidal violence, though it was unclear whether she died from blood loss or airway obstruction. Genetic tests confirmed that the baby was indeed Savanna's. The child was placed under the care of the county social services and later given the name her biological parents had chosen. Ashton shared an adorable photo of himself holding the baby on social media, a moment of overwhelming joy amidst the tragedy. A candlelight vigil in memory of Savanna was held on the evening of Wednesday, September 6, 2017. The following morning, Thursday, September 7, 2017, a funeral service took place at First Assembly Church. The funeral ceremony was open to the public, drawing nearly 1,000 mourners who joined Savanna's family and friends to pay their final respects amidst tears. Native American songs filled the air as Savanna, remembered as a kind and loving girl, was honored. The town's mayor offered words in memory of the late mother. Many attendees wore red shirts symbolizing not only Savanna's loss, but also the countless other indigenous women who had met similar fates. After the service, a horse-drawn carriage carried Savanna's casket to the cemetery, followed by 10 horses, one of which was riderless. Only Savanna's family attended the burial, placing various items on her coffin according to their tribal beliefs to accompany her on her journey to the afterlife. In later interviews, Ashton shared that he suffered from recurring nightmares following the tragic events. However, the support from friends and the community was overwhelming. One significant gesture was the creation of a fundraising account in his and his baby's names to help cover essential expenses. Granted legal custody of the baby, Ashton focused on her well-being. With the help of Savanna's parents, he spent his days bathing, feeding, and changing the baby, ensuring she had everything she needed. As he later shared with the media, Ashton realized he had become both father and mother. Brooke's trial began in early December 2017 at the Fargo courthouse. At 6 months old, Savanna's baby was seen in her father's arms during the hearings, where Ashton learned in detail the twisted circumstances of Savanna's death. The prosecutor emphasized Savanna's baby took her first breath as her mother took her last, seeking a life sentence without parole for Brooke, whom she called dangerous and heartless. Brooke's attorney requested life with the possibility of parole, arguing that in his 38-year career, he believed everyone could change, pointing to Brooke's acceptance of responsibility. In February 2018, at the sentencing hearing, moments before the judge announced the verdict, Brooke apologized to Savanna's family for the pain she had caused. She acknowledged there was no excuse or way to undo her actions. Ultimately, Brooke was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for the crime against Savanna. William, having accepted a plea deal and cooperated fully with the investigation, avoided charges of conspiracy to commit murder and to take the baby. Instead, he faced lesser charges of conspiracy to kidnap the baby and providing false information to investigators. However, the judge designated William as a particularly dangerous offender due to his prior conviction for child neglect and abuse, increasing his sentencing possibilities from 20 years to life imprisonment. During his sentencing hearing, William expressed deep remorse. However, during the victim impact statement, Savanna's mother expressed that William's supposed remorse was insufficient. She urged the judge to apply the full weight of the law, condemning Williams and his girlfriend's actions as atrocious and twisted. The judge heeded her plea, sentencing 33-year-old William to life imprisonment as a particularly dangerous offender. Despite this, he was given the possibility of parole. William later appealed his status as a particularly dangerous offender, and in August 2019, the North Dakota Supreme Court ruled that the designation was inappropriate. Consequently, a new sentencing was ordered. The second hearing took place on October 7, 2019. Although the judge disagreed with the decision, he aimed to be as severe as possible, sentencing William to 20 years in prison. Beyond the court and complex judicial processes, Savanna's loved ones strove to regain a sense of normalcy, especially because they believed that Savanna's baby deserved a full life, not one overshadowed by grief. For Ashton, every moment with his daughter was particularly precious after surviving such a nightmare. After enduring such a stressful and painful time, Ashton told the press he felt relieved that life for both of them had become much more tranquil and stable. The young father devoted himself to studying business administration at a local community college. Given their financial constraints, Ashton was looking for a better-paying job alongside his obligations. He was very grateful for the support from the fundraising account, using the money to buy a vehicle and renovate their modest home. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations. What was meant to be a joyful family camping trip full of laughter, s'mores, and starry nights turned into an unimaginable nightmare for the Schmidt family. In the early hours of July 22nd, 2022, an unknown assailant brutally murdered three family members while they slept in their tent. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the community, leaving everyone to question who could commit such a heinous crime. In this video, we'll explore the details of this harrowing case and attempt to understand the tragedy that claimed the lives of three innocent individuals. This is the chilling story of the Schmidt family. Tyler Schmidt was born on November 13, 1979, in Iowa, USA. He grew up in Cedar Falls, a city known for being home to the University of Northern Iowa. From a young age, Tyler joined the Boy Scouts, where he achieved the esteemed rank of Eagle Scout. This experience ignited his lifelong love for nature and camping. Tyler especially enjoyed the camps organized by the Lutheran Church, which encouraged family gatherings. While he learned to play the trumpet in his free time, his true passion lay in adventure and sports. He participated in cross-country running and was a member of the swim team at Northern Iowa High School in Cedar Falls. Additionally, he enjoyed canoeing, hiking, and snowshoeing. His interest in computing led him to Missouri, where he studied computer science at Truman State University. There, he not only earned his degree but also met Sarah, who would later become his wife. Sarah was born on March 27, 1980, in Kansas City. She spent part of her childhood near St. Louis with her siblings Karen, Jane, and Adam. Sarah shared Tyler's love for outdoor activities, especially bird watching and studying insects. Like Tyler, she was a Girl Scout and received the highest recognition, the Gold Award. She inherited her adventurous spirit from her mother, with whom she went backpacking in Central America. It was no surprise that Tyler knew she was his soulmate upon meeting her. As a student, Sarah excelled not only academically, but also in leading student projects aimed at improving school life. Her positive leadership and inclination earned her the prestigious Truman Scholarship while still at Washington High School in Washington, Missouri. This scholarship led her to Truman State University, where she met Tyler. They fell in love, started dating, and she readily accepted his marriage proposal. Both Tyler's and Sarah's families supported their decision to marry, as it was evident that they were perfect for each other and destined to build a beautiful family together. On Saturday, June 22, 2002, friends and family of Tyler and Sarah began arriving, elegantly dressed, at St. John Lutheran Church, located in Cedar Falls. The guests took their seats as directed by the wedding organizers. Seated at the front were Tyler's parents and Sarah's mother with her siblings. Nearby were Tyler's uncles and cousins. Outside the church, Sarah waited to make her entrance, accompanied by her father, who was ready to walk her down the aisle and give her away to her future husband. That day, Tyler and Sarah, both 22 years old, exchanged vows and promised to stay together until death parted them. Their shared love for nature led them to choose Boundary Waters, a well-known wilderness area on the border between the United States and Canada, specifically between Minnesota and Ontario, as the destination for their 10-day honeymoon. In the first decade of their marriage, Tyler and Sarah focused on achieving economic stability and furthering their professional careers. After earning their bachelor's degrees in Missouri, the couple moved to Lawrence to pursue their respective master's degrees at the University of Kansas, where Sarah eventually worked. As a computer science expert, Tyler worked for a supermarket, a delivery company, and UPS. He also spent 18 years at a company specializing in business-to-business billing and payments. Beyond their professional commitments, the early years of the Schmidts' marriage were filled with adventures. They always found ways to spend time together and explore new natural destinations. They frequently gathered with family or friends to enjoy their shared love of board games. Occasionally, they participated in activities organized by members of the Lutheran Church and, as avid fans of the Kansas Jayhawks, supported the basketball tournaments held at the Allen Fieldhouse. The year 2013 was bittersweet for the couple. On one hand, Sarah's father passed away from a heart attack, a significant loss for his loved ones. On the other hand, after 11 years of marriage, the couple welcomed their first child, Arlo. 3 years later, on September 17, 2015, they experienced the joy of parenthood again with the birth of a beautiful daughter, Lula Schmidt. When Arlo was 6 and Lula was 3, the family moved to Cedar Falls to be closer to Tyler's relatives. Cedar Falls welcomed them warmly, and they soon became active members of the community. Tyler continued working as a software engineer while Sarah started working as an assistant at the city's public library, and the children enrolled in Lincoln Elementary School's preschool. Tyler and Sarah were known for their kindness and willingness to help others, making everyone around them feel important. This commitment earned them the affection of their neighbors and the entire community. The same was true at the library where Sarah worked. Her warmth and friendly demeanor quickly made her well known and appreciated both inside and outside the library. The couple made sure to instill in Arlo and Lula the same passion they had for outdoor activities and nature. In 2021, they began camping with their children, and despite their busy schedules, the children loved these outings so much that the parents made time for them whenever possible. By mid-2022, Sarah was working long hours. Nevertheless, in June, she took a day off to celebrate their 20th wedding anniversary and planned to take another day in July to go on a family vacation. She had to finish a project for the library before July 26th, but was determined not to let it interfere with the family's plans. During the week of July 11th, Sarah mentioned to Caddy, her brother Adam's wife, that she would be camping with the children at Maquoketa Cave State Park, a popular destination for hikers and explorers in Jackson County, Iowa, famous for its 13 impressive caves and stunning natural landscapes. On Thursday, July 21st, the family packed their car and drove roughly 140 miles to reach Maquoketa Caves. Tyler and Sarah, both 42, along with their children Arlo 9 and Lula 7, arrived at the campsite before 5 p.m. The camping area was packed, so the Schmidts set up near the park's entrance. A few hours later, around 7 p.m., another family parked about 200 feet from their tent. This was Joe and Cecilia Sherwin, and their 23-year-old son, Anthony Sherwin, from Nebraska. The Sherwins set up 2 tents, one for the parents and another for their son. They were on their way home after a week-and-a-half camping trip that took them to Michigan's Upper Peninsula. The journey had been enjoyable and had strengthened the bond between Joe, Cecilia, and Anthony. Anthony was always attentive to his parents' needs, and his mother often said he was the best son she could have wished for: kind, sensitive, and an exceptional student. That year, Anthony was working on a computerized system to support a business he claimed was worth millions. He mentioned that part of the profits would be used to help his parents financially. Cecilia knew little about the project because Anthony kept the details of the mysterious business to himself, only mentioning that he sent emails under strict security. As night fell at Maquoketa Caves, the campers settled into their tents. Before dawn on July 22nd, the park's visitors were jolted awake by the sound of gunshots. Just before the commotion, a man dressed in black entered the Schmidt's tent and attacked Tyler and then Sarah. Arlo, who had been asleep, woke up to the sound of his sister Lula's screams. As he turned, he saw blood inside the tent. Terrified, he managed to escape and ran to seek help. As he fled, he heard one last shot. Cecilia and Joe, in the neighboring campsite, rushed out of their tent amid the confusion. Joe searched for his son among the campers, asking if anyone had seen him. Arlo, still frantic, ran until he encountered the Sherwins. He was screaming and asking for help, saying his parents had been shot. Cecilia took his hand and ran with him to the park entrance. Once there, terrified and unsure of what had happened, she pulled out her phone and dialed 911. She was worried because her son was sleeping near the tent where the shots had come from and feared he might be among the victims. The Jackson County 911 operator understood when Cecilia reported hearing gunshots, but she struggled to pronounce the park's name, making it hard to convey the location. She also explained she was with a boy claiming his parents had been shot. The call between Cecilia and 911 lasted 23 minutes. While she answered questions, the operator relayed the attack to the police and park rangers. Although the call was briefly disconnected, Cecilia persisted and called back, only to be put on hold while the dispatcher contacted emergency responders. Despite the tension and nervousness in the park, adrenaline helped Cecilia stay calm. After providing details about their exact location, she handed the phone to Arlo. The boy explained to the dispatcher that he was in a tent with his mom, sister, and dad, and when he woke up, he saw someone dressed in black holding a gun. The 911 operator asked the child where his father was, and after a pause, he responded that he thought his father was hurt. Around 6:30 a.m., police officers and paramedics arrived at the scene and headed to the Schmidt's tent. What they found was horrifying. All the occupants of the tent were dead. The beautiful campsite had turned into a crime scene. Law enforcement immediately began searching for the shooter, knowing he could be anywhere. The tactical team quickly evacuated Maquoketa Caves, State Park, and Camp Shalom, a Christian summer camp located about 1.5 miles from the site of the attack. As officials evacuated the visitors, they gathered them outside the park. Once everyone was accounted for, it was confirmed that only one person was missing: Anthony Sherwin. He was not only missing but also armed. At 11 a.m., police officers conducting an aerial search spotted a man's body. When they reached him, they found he was deceased. It was Anthony. Although investigations were necessary, the police identified him as the suspect in the homicides. They believed he had committed the deadly attack on the Schmidts and then taken his own life. The incident led authorities to close the park, a measure that remained in effect until July 28th. The Iowa Department of Natural Resources expressed its condolences for the incident. Their spokesperson issued a statement saying she and the entire team were devastated by the event, which had shaken the tradition of enjoying the state's natural wonders. But the legacy would continue for the millions of families who recreate in Iowa's parks. When citizens of Cedar Falls heard the news, They were shocked. The atmosphere changed suddenly, as if a gray veil had covered the sky. The reactions of family, friends, acquaintances, and even those who didn't know the victims were filled with pain. Cedar Falls was in mourning. In one of the windows of the Cedar Falls Public Library where Sarah worked, a sign was placed with a message saying that Tyler, Sarah, and Lula had left too soon but would always be in their hearts. The company where Tyler worked as a software engineer issued a statement describing him as a consummate professional and a mentor to his colleagues who were devastated when they heard about the tragedy. They knew of the love Tyler had for his children and his dedication to sharing his knowledge with little Arlo. The mayor of Cedar Falls also expressed his devastation over the loss of 3 beloved community members on his Facebook wall. He knew Sarah well as they had worked together on a tech project. The mayor also urged the residents of Cedar Falls to be generous towards Arlo, the sole survivor of the family, who was safe, and he shared a GoFundMe link for those wishing to donate. Within a few days, the initiative had raised over $276,000. In response to the tragedy, the local authority ordered the closure of the library for the rest of the day out of respect for Sarah's co-workers. The tragedy also elicited reactions from other political leaders. Iowa governor expressed her horror at the attack and sorrow for the unimaginable tragedy. And a U.S. House representative from Iowa tweeted that it was a senseless and horrific crime. Sarah's family was heartbroken. Her sister said she felt her life had been shattered, unable to believe that Sarah would no longer be just a phone call away and that she wouldn't see her niece grow up. Sarah's family traveled from North Dakota, Texas, and Michigan to join the rest of the family for the private funeral service held at Greenwood Cemetery. On August 2nd, a gathering was held to celebrate the lives of Tyler, Sarah, and Lula at the picnic area of Overman Park. More than 200 people attended. Several attendees, including Tyler's aunt and the mayor, spoke at the podium set up for the occasion, sharing their feelings and memories of the deceased. The mayor concluded the speeches by confessing that he had once envisioned Sarah, with her heart dedicated to the community, representing Cedar Falls politically in the future. While the loved ones of the Schmidts dealt with their grief and tried to provide comfort and attention to Arlo, authorities continued their investigation into the horrific crime. According to information released by the Iowa Department of Public Safety, based on autopsy findings, Tyler had a gunshot wound and multiple sharp force injuries. His wife Sarah had only sharp force injuries, while their young daughter had been both shot and strangled. In early August 2022, authorities released official information on the case, naming Anthony Sherwin as the person responsible for the Schmidt family's murder. According to the police, the 23-year-old, who had no prior criminal record, was the sole person involved in the incident before taking his own life. The investigation did not reveal any motive for the attack. The assistant director of the Division of Criminal Investigation stated that no connection was established between Anthony and the Schmidt family prior to that fateful day or during their time as neighboring campers. The police department in Nebraska assisted with the investigation. When officers searched the Sherwin family apartment in Nebraska, they found no suicide note or any indication that could explain why Anthony targeted the Schmidt family and himself. His Facebook page was also void of any clues, as it was completely blank. Regarding the weapons used by the attacker, the assistant director of the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation mentioned only one: a hand-assembled firearm which was recovered near Anthony's body. These types of weapons, also known as ghost guns, are built by individuals, often using parts purchased online without any restrictions. Since they lack serial numbers, They are difficult to regulate and trace. Seeking to confirm this information, the Des Moines Register contacted Anthony's parents, who confirmed that their son had built his own weapon using information found online. They explained that he did it as a challenge rather than out of a specific desire to own a gun. They also emphasized that Anthony was very responsible and had never harmed another person or animal. Cecilia asserted that their family had never owned guns and that they had decided to acquire them due to the rising crime rates in Nebraska. She added that, due to their lack of experience, they even took classes to learn how to handle them. The parents explained that they brought the homemade gun on the trip for protection against crime and possibly bear attacks, as they had experienced one night while camping. They also mentioned their intention to dispose of it upon returning home. Anthony's parents set out to prove their son's innocence, convinced that he was a victim of homicide and not the killer. According to Anthony's mother, an independently obtained autopsy report indicated that he had been shot twice, not once as claimed by the police. She suspected that the first shot was meant to incapacitate him, but she could not understand how he managed to shoot himself a second time, challenging the authorities' theory of suicide. Another point they raised was the color of the clothing the attacker was wearing. Cecilia recalled telling the 911 operator that the assailant was dressed in black, which did not match what her son was wearing. Green shorts she had given him the day before the tragedy. Additionally, Cecilia and Joe reported that the police did not disclose where Anthony's body was found, or whether the weapon he allegedly used to take his own life was the same one used against the Schmidts. When they specifically asked investigators if a ballistic test had been conducted to confirm matches, they received no answers. All these concerns were outlined in an email Cecilia sent to the media. In the message, she stated that her son had too many reasons to live and she was certain he would not abandon everything in such a manner. They had not seen any signs of him planning such an attack. In her opinion, Anthony was incapable of killing and had no connection to the Schmidt family. According to the grieving mother, the investigators only responded that it was a random murder. Anthony's parents requested the final investigation report to commission an independent review, but claimed they received no response to this request. In January 2023, a media outlet reported that it had requested public records of the case, adhering to Iowa's Open Records Law and the Freedom of Information Act. The request referenced incident reports, investigation documents, crime scene summaries, and autopsy reports. Devin McClone, from the Office of the Iowa Department of Public Safety Commissioner, responded that the requested records were not public, and they could only share the immediate facts and circumstances of the case, which were included in the links provided in the press release. A few days later, the media outlet sent an email to the official, inquiring whether the weapon Anthony used to take his own life matched the one used in the murders. She did not respond. Unless new evidence surfaces to the contrary, the police maintain that Anthony Sherwin was a random killer who viciously shot, stabbed, and strangled 3 beloved members of a Cedar Falls family. In contrast to Cecilia and Joe, their son, whom they described as a kind and studious individual, is innocent and another murder victim. They vow to continue their efforts to prove his innocence. After his traumatic experience, Arlo, the only survivor of the massacre, was taken in by his family in Cedar Falls, specifically Sarah's brother. In an exclusive interview with a local newspaper, Sarah's brother stated that his nephew had been very brave and was in excellent mental health. The GoFundMe page created after the tragedy continues to receive donations to support Arlo's upbringing and to establish an educational fund for his future. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations. Born on November 1, 2005 in Scotland, Amber Gibson was the second child of Anne Marie Adams and Peter Gibson. She joined the family 2 years after the birth of their first child, Connor Gibson. Amber, a beautiful red-haired baby, contrasted sharply with her brother, who had fair skin and dark hair. Their striking looks and cheerful personalities made them stand out. However, their home was marred by domestic violence. From a tender age, Amber and Connor witnessed their father's abusive behavior towards their mother. Peter's violence knew no bounds, causing physical, emotional, and mental harm to Anne Marie. He also had a criminal history, which included assaults on 2 minors and the abuse of an unknown woman. Due to these dire circumstances, both Amber and Connor were removed from their parental home and placed in the care of social services. After a thorough evaluation, they were relocated to live with the Niven family. Craig and Carol Niven, along with their 2 daughters, provided a nurturing and harmonious environment. This new home offered Amber and Connor a chance for a loving and dignified life, far removed from their troubled beginnings. At the ages of 3 and 5, respectively, Amber and Connor found solace and security with the Nivens. Connor even reassured Amber, saying they were finally safe. Meanwhile, their biological father, Peter, was convicted and sentenced to prison for his crimes. Craig and Carol Niven committed themselves to being exemplary parents. Their dedication led to the permanent custody of both children. Despite this positive change, Connor's past trauma began to manifest as he entered adolescence. Hoping it was just a phase, Craig and Carol took steps to address his needs, including enrolling him in a secondary school for children with social, emotional, and behavioral difficulties. Amber, in contrast, was flourishing. She displayed remarkable human qualities despite her early hardships. Generous, caring, and kind-hearted, Amber had an incredible perspective on life. She loved art and singing and attended Morehouse Academy, Bathgate. Her teachers and classmates admired her brilliance and vivacity, noting her big dreams and aspirations for the future. Amber's adoptive parents couldn't have been more pleased, and her foster sisters, Zero, were equally happy to have her around. However, Connor's behavior became increasingly concerning. Former classmates described him as unpleasant and noted that he spoke about harming others. There were even rumors that he had threatened a baby during that period. At home, things were no better. Craig eventually decided that leaving Connor alone with his younger sister was not advisable. He mentioned that they were not a good combination together, but never elaborated further. Despite the conflicts, Amber remained loyal to her brother, always trying to keep the peace. Then, an unexplained event occurred. Although Amber seemed like an ideal foster child, at 14, the care arrangement was terminated and she moved to the Hill House Children's Unit in Hamilton. Paradoxically, her problematic brother stayed with the Nivens for another 2 years until he turned 18. Shortly after, Connor moved to the Blue Triangle homeless shelter. Despite the distance, Amber ensured that Connor remained a constant presence in her life. When Amber was 16, she crossed paths with Jamie Stars, a 20-year-old leading a chaotic lifestyle, living just 3 miles from her new residence. Jamie had been removed from his parents' care at 3 years old and had led a troubled life, including substance abuse and criminal behavior. In May 2021, Jamie assaulted a young woman in the area. Taking advantage of her intoxicated state, he proceeded without her consent. When the victim reported the assault to the authorities, Jamie sent threatening messages to her friend via social media, attempting to coerce her into withdrawing the complaint. Despite the friend's testimony, his identity was legally protected. Jamie was charged with the assault and attempting to pervert the course of justice, resulting in his arrest. However, he was soon released on bail. In June 2021, Amber traveled to Bothwell, the place where Jamie lived. Although she didn't know Jamie, they ended up in the same lodging unit. That night, while Amber was asleep, Jamie attacked and assaulted her. Amber awoke to find herself undressed, with Jamie, also naked, beside her. She had no recollection of embracing or kissing him, leading to speculation that he might have drugged her, though no tests were conducted to confirm this. Gathering her courage, Amber reported the assault to the police. She identified Jamie from a photo lineup. The police started investigating the case. In July, Jamie faced justice again. Witnesses included the Amber and the first victim. Their testimonies revealed Jamie's method of preying on vulnerable girls. Jamie appeared in court via video link from police custody. His defense argued that his actions might be linked to his traumatic childhood. However, acknowledging his difficult past, the High Court judged him for his poor choices. Jamie was found guilty of both assaults, his name added indefinitely to the sex offender registry. He was also convicted of attempting to pervert the course of justice and breaching bail conditions. The sentencing hearing at the High Court in Edinburgh soon followed. One of the first to speak was the defense attorney, who emphasized that the authorities should consider the sentencing guidelines for individuals under 25 years old. In Scotland, the law suggests that younger people should receive lighter sentences due to their emotional immaturity and higher potential for rehabilitation. To support his argument, the defense lawyer pointed out a report indicating that Jamie exhibited cognitive and emotional immaturity. After hearing the defense's case, the judge acknowledged the relevance of Jamie's age and difficult background. However, he reminded Jamie and everyone in attendance that the crimes were still severe, even describing them as atrocious due to their impact on innocent victims. Consequently, the judge sentenced Jamie to 10.5 years in prison. Moreover, given the high risk of reoffending, Jamie was ordered to be under supervision for 2 years following his release. After the hearing, the police stated that the evidence and testimony provided by Amber were crucial in securing the conviction. Throughout this challenging process, Connor reached out to the Hill House Children's Unit to talk to his sister. Despite knowing his volatile temperament, Amber clung to the hope of reconnecting with her only available family member. The residence manager tried to discourage her from contacting Connor, but her efforts were in vain. Amber's close friend recalled that, despite their turbulent relationship, Amber had a special bond with Connor and was eager to see him. However, just as suddenly as he appeared, he disappeared, leaving her with unanswered questions. Amber tried to move forward with her life as best as she could, demonstrating an enviable spirit and determination. After a few months, Connor resurfaced. Likely driven by genuine affection for her only biological family member, Amber was excited when he expressed his desire to meet. They arranged a time and date and met in downtown Hamilton on the night of Friday, November 26, 2021. Overjoyed by her brother's presence, Amber took a selfie with him and posted it on her social media profile. It was the last time anyone heard from her. Around 10 p.m., security cameras captured the siblings walking together through the streets of Hamilton. At some point, out of the camera's view, Connor attacked Amber. He assaulted her, inflicted severe head and body injuries, and then strangled her until she died. About 90 minutes later, without attempting to hide the body, Connor headed back to the hostel where he was staying. Security cameras recorded his disheveled state, and footage showed him collapsing against a metal barrier. He eventually pulled himself together and disposed of his blood-stained clothes. Just before midnight, he returned to the hostel and told a staff member that he and his sister had argued. Later, another camera showed Connor going to the dumpsters outside the building with a plastic bucket in hand. He also called the Hill House Children's Unit, telling them not to worry if Amber didn't return, insisting that she was fine. Despite his assurances, the authorities reported Amber missing that same night. On Friday, November 26, 2021, retired William Corrigan took his 45-year-old son, Stephen Corrigan, to get a COVID-19 vaccine. Due to a recent fall, Stephen had his arm in a sling and needed extra support from his father. After getting vaccinated, Stephen decided to take a night walk and stumbled upon Amber's abandoned body. Rather than alerting the police, Stephen committed his own heinous acts by desecrating Amber's remains. He then concealed her body among leaves and bushes before leaving. Unaware of Amber's tragic fate, her loved ones and the authorities searched for her everywhere. Meanwhile, Connor sent a cryptic message to a group of 5 friends, saying he needed help with something, without specifying details. To create an alibi, he messaged Amber, asking if she was okay. He then told his friends that he had resolved the issue on his own. As the search for Amber continued, Craig and Carol grew increasingly anxious. They hadn't heard from Connor until a call on Sunday, November 28, 2021, when he told them that he and Amber had fought the previous Friday. Later that same Sunday, the police finally discovered Amber's body. Her underwear had been torn, and she had suffered severe head trauma. After securing the scene, investigators searched the area and found Amber's blood-stained shorts and t-shirt in a nearby dumpster. After informing her loved ones of the tragic outcome, the detective team began reconstructing Amber's movements from the last time she was seen to when her life was taken, and her body left in the middle of nowhere. At a press conference, one of the detectives appealed to the public for information. He emphasized the importance of understanding the events leading to Amber's fatal attack and urged anyone with information to come forward to help bring closure to her family. Knowing the community's fear and parents' concerns for their daughter's safety, he stressed that capturing the perpetrator was crucial for public safety. He pointed out that Amber was last seen in a busy part of town on a Friday night, suggesting there must have been many witnesses. He called on anyone who saw her to contact the authorities. Following the press conference, some people came forward with potential information, but none provided useful leads. Investigators continued their work, and the forensic pathologist's report highlighted that Amber was found covered in mud and had died from neck compression. Bloodstains found on her jacket were sent for DNA analysis, which revealed a chilling truth. The blood matched her brother Connor's DNA. Additionally, Connor's DNA was found on Amber's forcibly removed underwear. Another unidentified male DNA sample was also discovered, complicating the case further. With such evidence in hand, Connor became the prime suspect in the case. He continued to feign innocence and create false alibis that quickly fell apart. One such clumsy attempt was a social media post on December 1st, where he pretended to pay tribute to his sister, lavishing her with praise and claiming he would miss her dearly. The next day, he searched the internet on his phone for ways to mislead the police. He also posted several angry messages on his social media accounts. Hours later, he was arrested. Meanwhile, the details of the case were kept under strict confidentiality to avoid jeopardizing the investigation. However, some information leaked, and it became known that the victim's brother was under police scrutiny. Feeling the pressure from the police, Connor did not give up trying to distance himself from the crime. Instead, he pushed a local media outlet to publish a tribute to his sister. Forensic DNA analyses and other evidence continued to provide valuable information at a rapid pace. It was determined that Connor's clothing had traces of his sister's blood. Additionally, the analysis revealed that the third biological material belonged to Stephen Corrigan. A cybercrime expert analyzed Connor's phone and uncovered further evidence that clarified the case. Suspicious messages to his group of 5 friends and the one sent to Amber, knowing he had just killed her, were particularly incriminating. His internet search history only further exposed him. As these details began to emerge publicly, the complex story of Amber's tragic end came to light. Connor had to appear in Hamilton Sheriff Court to face charges of murder, sexual assault, and attempting to pervert the course of justice. Prosecutors stated that Amber had complete trust in her brother, which he brutally betrayed by taking her life. The court ruled that Connor should remain in police custody pending further investigations and court appearances. Stephen Corrigan was also arrested shortly thereafter. On January 13, 2022, he appeared in Hamilton Sheriff Court, charged with attempting to pervert the course of justice. He pleaded not guilty. Like Connor, Stephen was held in police custody awaiting his trial. The year 2022 was filled with legal proceedings, making it an extremely challenging time for Carol and her husband Craig, who were grappling with the grief of losing Amber and the shock of Connor's possible guilt. On November 1, 2022, which would have been Amber's 17th birthday, her friends and family celebrated her memory. They shared heartfelt messages and wishes for her eternal rest, along with photos of her on social media. Carol changed her profile picture to one of Amber, finding a measure of peace in the gesture, feeling that it symbolized having done everything possible for her. Additionally, Amber's loved ones created a memorial under a bridge near where her body was found. They placed bouquets, balloons, and candles in her honor. Unfortunately, the memorial was vandalized a few days later when vandals set fire to a nearby dumpster, causing flames to spread. In response, family and friends held a gathering in a park, releasing balloons, some shaped like the letter A for Amber, into the sky. While the wound from Amber's loss remained fresh, Connor's trial finally took place in July 2023. Throughout the trial, Connor denied any involvement in the crime and the sexual assault against his sister. Despite his denials, the evidence against him was overwhelming. His defense lawyer attempted to garner some sympathy from the court by highlighting Connor's lifelong neglect and emotional abuse, suggesting these factors could explain some of his actions. Next, the Director of Health and Social Care testified, describing the case as desperately sad and distressing. The court also heard that Connor appeared unshaken when speaking with Craig on the day Amber's body was found. Craig testified about Connor's increasingly problematic behavior. After a 13-day trial, the Glasgow High Court found Connor guilty of all 3 charges. The judge described the crime as depraved and warned Connor that he would face severe consequences. 15 days later, Stephen faced justice for his involvement. During his trial, he tried to present an unassailable alibi, claiming he spent the night at his elderly father's home and had spent much of the time playing computer games. However, the evidence against him continued to mount. Stephen also claimed that he didn't know why his DNA was found on Amber's body. While William corroborated much of his son's account, he admitted to the jury that he couldn't be certain of Stephen's actions during most of that weekend. Ultimately, Stephen was found guilty of attempting to pervert the course of justice and disturbing public order. In September 2023, during a joint hearing, both men received their sentences. Connor Gibson was sentenced to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 22 years before he can be considered for parole. Stephen received a 9-year prison sentence. In a statement following the trial, Craig and Carol acknowledged that their lives would never be the same. They described Amber as the most generous, caring, compassionate, and admirable person they had ever known. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.